carbon balance and the case of coconut plantations in undrained peatlands. Yeah, so I think without further ado, we'll move the floor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Amara, for the quick introduction. So, hi everyone. I hope you can hear me well. Everyone here in the room? Okay, that's great. So yeah, my name is Noya. I come from NGO also. So in Indonesia, we are Indonesian based. The name is Taijona Foundation, but you can call it like TJF. So yeah, I think I can just share my screen. Yeah, is it all right? Okay, so yeah, for now, as you can see, I guess on the screen, I want to start the presentation with asking your participation. So please, if anyone have like the using laptop or mobile phone is also okay. Please, you can go to mentai.com or menti.com. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, and you can enter this code on your screen, and you will have a question pop up there. Are peatlands carbon sink or carbon source? And I'm sure everyone here maybe know the answer. I will, yeah, if you can, yeah, I see here in the live results already someone answer. So I will wait for maybe a couple seconds, 1 minute at most to wait for you to answer this question. So if anyone I hope you can still see the code. If you haven't yet entered it, it's 739818117. Yeah, three people so far have answered. Yeah, 2 people. Now the answer both are leading. Is leading. So yeah, we can still wait for a couple of seconds. Oh, carbon sink. Yeah, so for people that just joined, we are having this like pop quiz. Still to start this presentation, you can go to menti.com and use this code 739818117 to answer this question: are peatlands carbon sink or carbon source? And I think I can still wait for like 5-10 seconds, so I will begin countdown inwardly. Yeah, so I think most of people here already answered, and as you can see, I hope in the screen, most of people's answered peatlands are both. It could be carbon sink and a carbon source. And let me get back to the, yeah, so for people who haven't answered, I'm sorry, but then I just want to show you here. Peatland supposed to be in its natural state. It should be a carbon storage, and I'm sure you know all about that. If you're already looking at the materials and the infographic that RE-PEAT already shared in the community and also in their Instagram. So yeah, basically there is no exact right or wrong answer because it's supposed to be a carbon storage, but peatland, peat soil can be both a carbon sink and a carbon source. So to be a carbon sink, the vegetation in peatland is supposed to capture the carbon from the atmosphere through the photosynthesis here. Meanwhile, the peatland under circumstances, like specific circumstances, especially when they are drained, degraded, they can be a carbon source. So they release more carbon than they capture it through this oxidation and sometimes, unfortunately, a forest fire in peatland. So I'm here today. I want to share with you guys because I'm also still learning also about the carbon balance in peatland using a case in an undrained coconut plantation in peatland. So my friend and I just got back from this study case in a research site a month ago. So this is still very new, and it's the first time I share the result here in this session. So I just want to share first about if you guys search about peatland, if you type peatland in search engine, this kind of image might pop up, especially if you type like tropical peatland. This is like the nature, the pristine state of a peat that usually come across a peat swamp forest. So you can see there that it's saturated with water mostly, so some part are submerged. But then in reality, us, the global population, we actually have this kind of challenge that can be summarized in these 3 points. And I think most of you have come across this narrative often about how the world population is still increasing up to 2050. And then, of course, we need to provide more food for people. And then at the same time, we lost a lot of agricultural land in my island in Java in Indonesia. There are like hundred thousands of hectares of the arable land that being converted to develop area mostly. So it's to housing, to commercial zones, those kind of things. And these challenges actually drive the utilization of new lands to be converted into agriculture. And one of the efforts happening in the world, also in Indonesia, is to convert peatlands, which is part of suboptimal lands as agriculture lands. But then if you search peatland agriculture, which is like the terminology that usually used to see if it's the peatland being converted into agriculture area, sometimes the result image are like this. Not always like this. Sometimes you can see like a productive area, but sometimes you also see kind of degraded, abandoned land plot like this with this drainage canal that not very well maintained. That basically making this peatland ecosystem lost the water. And if you keep seeing through the search result, sometimes you also come across this kind of image where we have the fire, we have the drained peatland area here, and the forest fire and the smoke, the haze disasters, and not only affecting the peatland itself, but also the people that live in the settlements in the area that near the peatland region. So the question is it actually possible to have sustainable peatland agriculture with a minimum risk, minimum negative impact to our environment and to us, of course, the human? So what I want to believe, the answer is yes. But we can have the sustainable peatland agriculture. But then we need to highlight that the sustainability in peatland is a bit maybe different from the sustainability that we usually know, because as you can see on the right images, at the upper part, you can see the 3 dimension of sustainability, and usually the sustainable part is on the middle. But in peatland, it's usually more like the one in the bottom, which we have to protect, we have to conserve more about the environmental aspect, so that the social and economic aspect, those 2 dimensions can also thrive. So what it means in peatland, usually when we say environmentally sustainable, we talk about the carbon balance, which is like the balance of how the peatland can capture and release the carbon. And the peatland, of course, should be a carbon storage. So it should have more carbon sequestration than the carbon emission, and it should be a carbon sink more compared to being carbon source. And how can the plants in the agriculture, the peatland agriculture, capture and release carbon? If you remember the first slide, the capturing carbon could be done by photosynthesis. So the vegetation, the plants on the peat area can increase their biomass, and then by releasing, that's what we need to minimize, which is to minimize the subsidence and also minimize the risk of fire or land burning. And yeah, this is basically the result of our research earlier this year. We have a research in a district called Pulau Burung in Riau province, Indonesia. It's located here in the eastern coast of Sumatra Island, one of the biggest island in Indonesia. And our result is the carbon emission in that plantation. It's a coconut plantation that have been existed for like more than 30 years. The carbon emission there is around 13 ton carbon per hectare per year. Meanwhile, the carbon sequestration or this plantation can capture carbon around 34 ton carbon per hectare per year. So it's quite a lot. It's almost twice larger than the emission. And how we measure the emission? We measure the emission using a subsidence-based approach. So if you don't really familiar with subsidence, I have an image here to show you that subsidence is the lowering process of the soil surface. And in peatland, it can happen very quickly because I'm sure you know that peatland is very porous. So the lady here standing showing that the peatland in 1988 was like uh, at least 1.5 meter higher than the current year she's standing. And in my study case, in my team study case in Pulau Buru, the annual subsidence for the more than 30 years of development is only 1.7 centimeter, so it's per year. Meanwhile, we also have another number from desk research. It's an acacia plantation in Riau, and the annual subsidence is almost 5 centimeter. But maybe if you see the number is not very significant, but if you compare the slope, the different slopes between the two subsidence rate, it really matters because it means that if you can see here in the first 3-4 years of development, when the peatland is drained, because they use the drainage channel, it releases a lot of carbon through the very fast subsidence process. But then they become stagnant, and this stagnancy is around 5 centimeter, but it's still a lot. In Pulau Burung, we have 12 ton carbon per hectare per year as emission. Meanwhile, here it's almost 43 ton carbon per hectare per year. So yeah, it's quite high. It's quite significant difference. And for the carbon sequestration, we use above ground biomass measurement to see how much biomass is actually being produced there as a way the plants capturing the carbon. And it is a coconut plantation, but this area also produce pineapple as their second product. So we categorize the carbon pool, the group of the vegetation that can capture the carbon into these three categories. So first we have the coconut, and then we have the pineapple, and also we have the intercrop where the people there, the farmer there, plants the coconut together with the pineapple, and they actually match. And you can see here the actual image. So for the tree, the coconut tree, we calculate the stem, the leaf, fruit, and nuts. Meanwhile, for the pineapple, we calculate the fruit only because maybe you can see, search for the image of the pineapple. It's grown on the in the soil with only like that, not like in the high tree. And for the understory, we have grass and like litters from the fallen body parts of the tree. And as the result, we have these three numbers as the sequestration. So this number are the carbon sequestration for 32 years, which is the data period that we have. And if you summarize that and then search for the annual sequestration, it's the 34 ton carbon per hectare per year that I showed you before. And if you try to compare the sequestration and the emission, our study found that the plantation in Pulau Buru that we have as a study case have a positive carbon balance, which has more. The offset is 21 ton carbon per hectare per year, and that's a lot. It's like bigger than the emission itself, which is like 12 ton carbon per hectare per year. So the main question is how can this plantation have a very positive carbon balance? And apparently in that area, they have this existing water management system, an integrated one and a closed one, where the canals, dikes, dams, and the water gates all act as a reservoirs. So it's very different with the channels, with the canals that I show you on the first image where the peatland are drained. Here the peatland is undrained, but of course they are managed. So the range of the water table that can be managed result in the people can grow the coconut and the pineapple, but also they manage the peatland still moist. And the result of that peatland being healthy is that they have the water all year long. So during the dry season, there are no fires, but they also have the subsidence, the lower subsidence and fire risk compared to other plantation. And this lower subsidence and fire risk also leads to lower emission. And as I mentioned before, the lands are also productive. You can imagine the people there already living for 30 years, producing the coconut and the pineapple. So yeah, that's the principle. Managing peatlands means managing the water, but it's not only that I want to, that's what I want to highlight. There are like a lot of factors, but here I have a list of 3 factors that need to be considered in managing peatland agriculture to be sustainable. So first is about the innovation and investment, because of course the water management is partial and it's costly. It is costly to have that kind of sophisticated system, but also we need to think about the land and commodity management. And of course, the innovation and investment are always welcome to adapt and adopt the practices. The practice in Pulau Burung might suit well there, but if we just copy paste that elsewhere, it might not be that good, or even it will be disaster. And second is about the perception. The agriculture extensification, especially by converting peatlands, unfortunately, a lot of that happened in a not in a right and sustainable manner. And speaking from experience, also in Indonesia, not only in Indonesia but also in Indonesia, it's also prone to abuse that by people that have like more power. So it should be really done in a very careful manner. Still, the peatland, the degraded peatland, have the opportunity to be a arable land, agricultural land, but still, it should be done very carefully in a right and sustainable manners. So, but for now, the negative perception is still out there. And the third, the last, is about the stakeholders cooperation. So it's basically our homework to make the negative perception decrease, because of course the resources are necessary to do everything to make it sustainable. And especially the cooperation is needed to support the main actor, which is the farmer, the local farmer and the local community that lives in peatland and depend on it. And yeah, I think that's the end of my presentation. If you're still curious or maybe confused about what I'm talking about, you can go to our website. We have some scientific article if you want to know about the details. And we also in our Instagram at Taijano Foundation, we have like more visual and infographic if you are more like a visual person. So yeah, you can just visit the website or follow the Instagram if you still want to know more about this issue, or you can just ask me right now. So yeah, thank you. And back to you, Almara.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. Yeah, if anyone wants to.
Amari, just unmute.
Amari, can you try? This was unmuted. This was muted, so you have to try that.
Oh, sorry. There's a reverb.
Your sound is good. Sound. Yeah.
Sorry. There's a bit of a reverb in the room. Beth, maybe you take over?
So maybe, does anybody have any questions that they would like to, you can either unmute yourself and just ask them now, or you can also write them in the chat if you want to. We have some time if anybody has one that they would like to ask to Noya. And otherwise, perhaps Noyada, you could also share your website in like the community platform the community space and the platforms, then people have the link if they want to go through and check it out a bit later on.
Yes, I will do that. Yeah.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say that it was a very good presentation. I'm just like looking at the Instagram and
Yeah.
it's really fun. Just like the stories are really nice and very graphic-y.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I wanted
Yeah.
to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, you can of course follow our Instagram. That yeah, I also want to share that we don't only focus on peatland because we basically an NGO that is research based, and the vision is to have the sustainable agriculture in suboptimal lands. But also peatland sometimes are part of suboptimal lands because mostly peatlands are degraded. So yeah. You can find a lot of information not only about peatland in our website and Instagram. Thank you for checking it out.
Okay, perfect. I put your website also in there, but I mean, for people who maybe couldn't make it to this session because of the time zone or whatever, then you can also put it in the community platform. And then the same way, Robert, it's also then in the chat for you and anyone else who wants to check it out already. And then perhaps then we can continue the discussion if people have further questions on the platform.
Yeah,
Emma.
question to ask. I was wondering, like, since you've been doing your research, have you realized, like, I don't know, the perception of like peatlands like shifting, especially related to agriculture? And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, sure. I actually also just have a discussion with one of a researcher that is based in UK, and I also know that the type of peatlands in tropical and in northern hemisphere may be different, different a lot. And if you search about peatland agriculture in tropical area, unfortunately most of them are like always exposed in a very negative ways, because it is indeed not very sustainable for the moment. But what I want to share is that using this study case, there are actually ways to make it sustainable, to make it carbon positive. It's not always only the peatland agriculture will make a higher risk of forest fire in the peatland. It's not always the case. It can be the other way around. It can be a carbon positive. And also what I realized the most is that sometimes it's not as simple as, oh, we need to protect the peatland. We also need to protect the people. And that's why we need to make it more sustainable, because we need to look into the human side. A lot of people depends their livelihood on peatland. And by doing the research on field, I can see that if we just conserve the peatland as it is without considering the people, it is also wrong too. I think that's what I also believe. We need to consider all the things, but of course, in peatland, you need to take a look at the environmental aspect very highly, very carefully. But still, we need to think about also the people that live there in the peatland region. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. That's so powerful. Also showing how like you can still work on the land and then still treat it like with kindness and keep sustainable practices even while like working on it.
Yeah. True.
We have another question from the chat. How can peatland agriculture be beneficial to the ecosystem?
Okay. Yeah, it's quite complicated to answer that kind of question, because some people also believe like an effort to agriculture, it's like a human intervention. It will always have like quote unquote negative impact to the environment, to the natural environment. But of course, the peatland agriculture still can make a positive impact to the ecosystem as it is. Like not only the nature, right? The ecosystem is also the people and all the living beings in the area. For the people, the agriculture, of course, will make a positive impact, because usually it is the main livelihood, the source of their living, not only for the money but also for the food plants, the food crop that can be grown. Also in peatland, there are a lot of research that show that you can actually grow not only like coconut and pineapple, because they are fruits, but also like rice and then the others, but under very specific method and circumstances. So you should be very careful to that. And for the nature, as I mentioned, it can be made a carbon balance in positive. So it will capturing, it will store more carbon. So it can like not maintaining, at least not degrading the climate change, because otherwise the peatland agriculture using the conventional ways, it will emit more carbon compared to the capturing it. So I think, yeah, that's my answer. I hope you understand.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very elaborate answer.
Yeah.
So nice. Thank you for the session. I just wanted to mention, the next session is youth engaged in wetlands. I think that's going to be really cool and informative as well. So if you want to join that, and otherwise we have a whole platform where you can have discussions, like continue this discussion if you want to, or post pictures or share projects you're working on. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
Yeah, so Noya, also maybe cool for the people that are not currently able to tune in because of the time zone differences. If you would like to make a post about your coconut plantation project in the community board, so that others can also learn about it, that would be really, really nice.
Yeah, okay. I will do that after this. And also, I actually want to share a bit. I put the Instagram of my organization also in the chat. If you can visit there, you might notice that my organization also will conduct similar things like this, PEAT-FEST. We will have a PEAT party to celebrate the World Peatlands Day. So we will have like a month long of activities under like PEAT party series. So if anybody here maybe can join, we will have like a webinar, also a challenge, social media challenge, and also like a behind the scene of video of this research, actually the carbon balance research. We will be launching it next month, and also like the trivia. So yeah, if you guys can check it out, I hope we can have fun together and yeah, get to know more about peatland.
Sounds great. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we'll close the session now and hopefully see you